Hi, welcome back to the Let's Get Better Together series on the Everyday Tim channel. My name is Tim. Here in the Everyday Tim channel, we kind of, strive to draw every single day to get better. And, in the Let's Get Better Together series, we tackle things that, we may not be the best at and want to, get better at. I know, for me perspective, something that I definitely want to master with everything going on, regarding perspective. So that's something that I did want to tackle today. Yesterday we did 1 point perspective. Today we're doing 2 point perspective. Everything is covered in this Perspective Made Easy book by Ernest Norling. That's where I get a lot of this information from. It's a fantastic book. I think it's like $5 to $10 on Amazon, but generally it's referred to as one of the best overall guides for perspective. But so let's go ahead and hop into here, into the Photoshop document here. So what I went ahead and did was I widened our page a little bit. The initial inside here was what we were. This area is going to be really our page, and the outer areas are if it's outside the page. But like one point perspective, 1 point perspective, the vertical lines both ways, in the horizontal lines went the same vertical horizontal. This time it is just the vertical lines in 2 point perspective that stays parallel. Here the first thing you always want to do is you want to get the horizontal or the horizon line. And so the reason that I widened the paper a little bit is you don't want to have your vanishing points too close together. So I went ahead and made the vanishing points out here. If the vanishing points were here and you're trying to make a house, it would just look way too warped. Just to kind of speed through one. Look at this house. That's such a an odd looking forced perspective that if that's the look you're going for, absolutely, by all means kind of handle it. But it just looks too puffy. And granted it was a little bit faster, but here we really want to try to space it out and look like it's going to be in real life. In real life the vanishing points aren't here, it's the way out here. So generally with 2 point perspective you always start with the closest angle, like the closest line that of the building. So we're going to start and we're just going to draw a straight line here. That's going to be the closest edge to us. So what I'm going to kind of do, because there's a lot of line work in perspective, I'm going to go ahead and switch back and forth between gray and black. Hopefully that helps a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the tops of the edges here and bring them to our vanishing points. Then we're going to decide where we want this next piece of wall to be for the next edge. And actually I'm going to make that a little bit closer because I don't want to add something there on this side. Perfect. So there we go. We have our starting box shape. We're gonna focus on a house at first. Just because it's kind of the first building block to next we can handle cities, and a house is just, it's stationary. You can put it out in the middle. Like if we wanted to, this could be our house. It's just a square. Just to make it a simple house. The greatest thing that we can ever learn is with cubes, everything is just so dimensional. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to connect the corners of each of these edges. What that does is it helps us find the center. The center of this square right here is right there. And why that's important is I'm going to take this line and bring it directly up. This is going to be the peak of our house. And I'm going to do it as well here on this side. Actually, I'm not going to do that yet. We're gonna focus as if it's just a standard, the house where we have our roof going that way. So next step, I want to connect the top edges of this side to the top of this point. And for those following along, how I do that is shift. So shift click is how you do that. Get those straight lines. So now that you have kind of the front face of this house right here, what we're going to do is we're going to connect that to the far vanishing point. And then once we have that, we're going to try to match this line right here, and we are going to kind of ghost over it a couple times and try our best to recreate the angle that's at. Perfect. And then so, just kind of make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to black out the rest of this house here. That way we can see it look great without the confusion. So look in here. This is our house, and that's a basic vanilla house. You can add your little door here, and that's kind of the beauty of this this crossing, finding the center, because if we want to find the center of this spot, we can just do it like this. Oops, I apologize. Run a line from the vanishing point to the edge there. So that is horizontally the center of the square here. So if we wanted to break this part into squares as well, so we can maybe find like a center here, what I can do is I can just go vertical there, and that spot right here, it looks like this is going to be the center. And I know this is a lot of lines there to kind of confuse you, but make it a little easier. That's the center area, and we can make like a nice little door and make it look nice and make it look nice and realistic. And there's your door. Welcome to my house. If you want to put a window, totally cool. But that's how you make a perfectly vanilla house there. That's good. That's cool to start off with. You can make several of these. If you want to do the same thing on this other side, you absolutely can. But what we're going to do is we're going to add another dimension to the house. So we're going to add another side to it. So we're still going to start off with our closest edge. We're going to do the same exact thing. Connect the edges to the vanishing point. But this time I'm going to make it a little bit smaller here on both sides because I want to add another part to the house. So there's our cube, nice and pretty cube, perfectly in 2 dimensions. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do the same exact thing we had just done. We're going to add a second roof going a different way. So we're going to bring this line up, and we're also going to bring this line up. And we're going to connect these pieces. And so there, it looks we have 2 separate faces that have a little bit of roof there. So what we're going to do is we're going to connect them to the opposite vanishing points. And you see this area right in there. If we go ahead and connect these 2 pieces, that shows a really nice indent there. So let's go ahead and darken all this out. Oop. There we go. So just like that, we have 2 roofs. And what we can do, to add another little bit, what if we want to add a sort of side hang off from this side over here? So we're going to do that same idea where we want to run a line through here, and it's always best practice to ghost a couple times. There you go. Kind of show that we don't have to do the hold shift each time. It's just easier to get these perfect lines. And let's go ahead and we're going to add this. We're going to add one from here. And so the way to do that is the exact same way that we just did the original one. So we have our, if we want to just kind of put a line out let's put a line out here to just kind of show this is kind of the area that we want it to go to. We run this line, we want to run it from this vanishing point, the far one on the right, through here, and we made contact right there, so that's where that vanishing point is going to be, or that angle, that edge. We're going to run that other point from there, and then we're going to do the same thing. We want to see where this makes contact through this point to that vanishing point. Perfect. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and erase this little bit of ugliness there. I know there are a lot of lines here to kind of... That was one of the first things I learned, you know, that you definitely have to figure out here is how to see through all your line work, because that's one of the hardest parts. So we're going to just kind of bring this higher. And so the idea here is we want it, this face is similar facing to this face. So we want to kind of make it out, you know, in the same idea. But we also want it to kind of show depth. So we want it to run through this point to where it reaches there. And then from this line, we want it to connect with that other vanishing point. And so the reason we ran it through that line is because it goes all the way from here, to there through this point. Okay, so let's kind of darken this out a little bit. So there's our connecting wall. You know, if we wanted it to, you know, be as high as it is, you know, if we wanted to match it with that point. Perfect. So just like that, we have another, you know, kind of wing, you know, if we go ahead and erase all of this, we have another sort of wing to the house. And so, you know, I think best practice is to just kind of mess around, play around with adding and, you know, adding different edges to the house and adding different, you know, pieces. You know, if, you know, here is actually the best cheat code, you know, through Photoshop. This probably should be the first thing I did, but we're going to go ahead and go to the polygon tool down here, and we are going to turn this to shape. We're going to make this no fill, and we're going to make the stroke, we'll make it black 1 pixel. We're going to go into this little gear, we're going to change it to star and indent sides by 99%, and then we're going to make it 100 sides. So what that does is we take it from the vanishing point, it creates a nice little grid, a nice perspective grid. So I'm going to match up that horizontal line with the horizon line, and we want to go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side. Exactly the same. Just like that. We have a perfect little grid. I know this looks kind of confusing, but it's a lot easier than just kind of adding, you know, doing everything by hand and hoping it works. So here, what we're going to do, we're going to do one more, just kind of speed up and just kind of show you what I mean. So if we take this, straight up from there, we can connect them to the vanishing points and see it perfectly aligns with the grid here. You know, so if we go here to here, boom, it's perfectly with the grid. Here to here, perfectly aligned with the grid. But this is the easy part, you know, this is the part that, you know, goes from the first edge kind of setting it up is sort of the easy part. So, you know, because once you get the cube, it's once you start adding, you know, onto the different sides. You know, and then, you know, same idea, right up, boom, boom. And so what I'm actually going to do here is I'm going to make this house looking the other way. We're going to mirror this edge right there. There we go. And so now we have a nice looking house, but I want to add a side right here that is perfectly in the middle, and it's a little, you know, little offshoot. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out where the middle of this area is. this spot right there is going to be one edge. It looks kind of like a pentagram there. Right there, we're going to go straight up and down. So that little block right there is a perfect in the center area if you want to make it like a garage or on a, I'll outline it in red right here just because it'll be easier to see that way. And so the way we got that little red area is we broke it up into, we broke it up into halves using the X method. So here's the X, you do straight up and down there. Then you kind of separate each side into different X's, and you kind of meet at the points in the middle there. And then so from here, we kind of want to add, and actually this is the nice thing about the grid, you don't have to guess. You can just say, all right, well, I want it to, as long as we're following this line, I want it to come out to there. If that's the case, it's probably going to be about this tall, so we're going to take that to that line, connect it there, boom, we have our first side. We want to do the same idea. Unfortunately this one doesn't have a direct spot, but you can always guesstimate just a little bit. That's part of the fun of drawing, is kind of getting your own idea going. And actually this one is going to go all the way to the opposite side there. So, it's going to look like that. And if you want to add a piece to the top, a little overhang roof that, we like to add quite a bit. You do it exactly like that. And then here's actually the same idea where you want to mirror that. Boop. And just like that, you added a little add-on to it. So if we want to go over it and see, let's do a color that we can see and differentiate. We'll just do blue. 1 second, Lucy. That's my dog, Lucy. We'll go ahead and outline this in blue so we can see the lines a little bit better. That's also another thing in drawing, is there are so many different, attempts, different layers. This is your sketch layer. This is your, layer that you add details on. So just like that, boom, we went ahead and added, another extra area. And actually, what I'm looking at here, that looks a bit off. So what I believe, and this is part of the Let's Get Better Together, I believe this actually should run through this point right here. So that's where it should be. Let's go ahead and see how that looks. That doesn't look quite right either. So somewhere in the middle. You know what the issue is? It's this. So this line right here needs to go to, yeah. So instead of that, you go to that. There we go. My apologies for that one. That's a lot better. So the issue was this line right there, that edge, needed to run to the other vanishing point. I put it to the wrong vanishing point. But that's where, the idea of, playing around and, doing what you can with it, to see what works and doesn't work. And that's kind of the fun of the Let's Get Better Together series is, I'm not a master at any of this, but, being able to kind of think it out loud and you seeing the thought process of us trying to figure out the answer, that's kind of what I think is beneficial. So, I kind of want to go here and I want to reverse engineer. I went ahead and reverse engineer a couple Google images that I found. So the first one is this house in 2-point perspective. First thing I did was find, the vanishing points on the horizon line, and, you just kind of reverse engineered it. The idea with this is really cool, but there's no details in it. There's no, if you want to do like a brick shingle, following this little, if you wanted to add bricks, or, just sort of, any sort of, design there, whether it's just panes or something, it all depends on the style of house that you're trying to create. And you know, that's where the fun of looking into different kinds of houses, you know, on Google or whatever, kind of gives you that, you know, gives you ideas. And so you're like, well, I really like what they did with this house. Let's go ahead and try it out here. Look at that, you know, it kind of has a log cabin feel. If these were brown and rounded out, you know, you could make your log cabin there. And so, you know, that's kind of the idea. Is here they have these nice vertical shingles with, you know, a couple windows here and there. It's a nice modern, you know, cottage sort of house. A lot of windows here. You know, this house right here is probably not going to have a lot of windows unless we want to make this entire spot here a window. You know, or it could be a garage. Look at that. That's kind of the fun of it, is, you know, you kind of think on the fly. Boom, we have a little garage there. You know, we want to put a little trash can next to it. But that's kind of the fun of it. The other one I have is this nice, you know, little wooden cabin. And this one, this kind of why I this made this our page and had our vanishing points out here. Because in this instance here, we had to zoom way out to find where the vanishing points were. And they were pretty offsetting as well. So it's one of those things where, you know, you don't necessarily have to have it perfect. Because at one point, this is a vanishing point. There's another vanishing point there. And then this one, it's still further off the page. Like this one, the size of this, let's just kind of see this. The size of this image, it's like you can fit this 3 or 4 times. It's crazy. So that's how far out the vanishing points were for there. And here's one that I kind of did, you know, similar. I did this one yesterday, just while I was kind of exploring 2-point perspective. You know, we can go over shading, and, you know, the shading from the light source is actually kind of the similar idea. Or here's the sun. You take that. All right, well, this is where this point is. You take that. That's where that point is. You do make a horizontal line like that. You connect them. And there you have your shadow. So, you know, it's something that we can absolutely go over later. Right now, you know, the importance of it is, you know, being able to consistently get down this, you know, being able to make a house. You know, if you want overlapping sides to the house, you kind of just overlap them. There we go. Let's go ahead and erase this part. Just like that, we have a bit of overlapping of the sides. You had a little bit of shade there underneath it because, you know, there's no light source. There's nothing getting under that. But that's the fun of houses. That's the fun of perspective. Is you can just make a cube and go crazy. You know, I mean that's what it kind of started with. Is here's our cube. You know, connected to the light source. Which actually that's, you know, 1-point perspective, but, you know, connect this to the light source there. Let's make it 2-point. But the important thing in 2-point perspective is you just start with the closest edge. You know, you just start with this edge right here. Whatever edge is going to be closer to the viewer, that's the one that's really sticking out, and you wrap them to the other vanishing point. So I hope that kind of explained it quite a bit. You know, how to make a house here in 2-point perspective. I really like this layout of, you know, it's all just kind of raw and fluid, and, you know, not so much me, you know, pre-planning out a lecture being, you know, well, this, you take the, you know, having already planned, if I would have already planned out these 2 houses, you know, this is all you would have seen. And it's just, you know, I think the process of doing it is more beneficial than the, you know, me explaining how to do it. You know, because if I can explain and show you at the same time in the process, I think that's way better than do this. All right, good. All right, nice 7-minute video. But, you know, if you have any other questions, we can definitely handle this more. What I really do want to start doing is live streaming, so that there's you know, sort of a live questions. You know, well, how do I do this? Well, you know, we can go over that. You know, how do I add a little, you know, shading overhang here? Well, you know, perfect. Let's go ahead and add the shading overhang. It's not as simple as just kind of adding it like that. You need to, you know, follow the vanishing points. And so I hope you did learn a little bit from this. I know I did, you know, just from this instance right here. You know, just actively. The secret to drawing is drawing every day. That way you can get the tread on your tires, so to speak. And then it's also, don't be afraid to fail. You're going to fail. We all fail. It's just you want to make sure to fail forward. Don't be discouraged when you fail, because it happens. The difference between a master artist and a beginner is the master artist has already failed a trillion more times. And so if something doesn't work, you look at it and say, why didn't this work? All right, let's fix it next time. So that's kind of my little soapbox here at the end of the video, but I hope you did enjoy the 2-point perspective. We made a nice little house with a garage, and I'm actually kind of really happy with how the simplistic it is and how it turned out. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and again, thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.